Appreciate very much all of the work that you do collectively. I have been working with the chairman now for the last couple of years to have a plan for NASA going forward that we believe protects NASA's mission and is a balanced program that invests in the commercial sector, but has our emphasis on the NASA mission being accomplished and being sure that it will be accomplished. I am pretty critical, and the chairman has been as well, of the last 2 years' budget requests from the administration. Part of the concern is that there is a sudden change in direction, and there is concern that the senior leadership of the agency remains uncommitted to the full, faithful, and timely implementation of the law that we worked very hard to pass last year when we saw the budget submission from 2 years ago, well, from actually the beginning of this year. The beginning of last year, I guess. It is the law, and it is an advisory framework. When we wrote the NASA Reauthorization Act of 2010, this committee provided a balanced portfolio for NASA with robust investment in science, research, and development activities, and the continuation of human spaceflight and exploration development. The law prioritizes the continuation of work on the Orion Crew Exploration Vehicle and redirects the agency's efforts to develop a heavy launch vehicle to carry Orion beyond low Earth orbit. To meet these requirements, we directed the administrator to use as much existing technology as possible from the shuttle and constellation programs to shorten the development timeline, reduce costs, and maximize the use of taxpayer funds that have already been dedicated to our human spaceflight program. In carrying out that effort, the administrator is directed to modify and extend existing contracts for the relevant technology to get started quickly and to prevent the loss of critical skills and infrastructure. Yet, 5 months have passed since the law's passage, and we're still waiting for signs that the agency will comply with these directions. To my knowledge, not one major contract has been modified in furtherance of the requirements of the law that was passed by Congress and signed by the President. In fact, Mr. Chairman, a final report was due from NASA 2 months ago outlining its plans for the capsule and the heavy lift vehicle, including related contract modification determinations. What we received was a preliminary report lacking much of the information required by the law, and now 2 months later we're still waiting for compliance with even this modest reporting requirement. With these requirements still unresolved, we now must consider the President's FY 2012 budget request. Once again, the request appears to ignore many of the priorities that the law has established for human space flight. Specifically, the request reduces the funding for the Orion capsule and the heavy lift vehicle by more than $1.3 billion, below what we authorized for FY 2012. At the same time, the request proposes a significant increase to the very same areas prioritized in the administration's last budget request, which Congress rejected. The NASA Reauthorization Act was designed to promote investment in commercial crew capabilities while prioritizing the rapid development of a national launch system to resume exploration. This will allow us to develop an important backup capability along the way to fully develop a launch system for exploration. And it assures access to low Earth orbit from a domestic source should a commercial crew provider fail to provide reliable and safe capability. The fact that this budget request that is before us today dramatically reduces funding for the heavy lift launch vehicle and Orion capsule while proposing a 70% increase for commercial crew is another illustration that the administration is not taking steps necessary to embrace the priorities we establish and implement the law. I have similar concerns with the budget request provisions related to space technology. Last year, we rejected the notion that we would invest in technology for the sake of doing so. We determined that we would not support investment in undisciplined research that was not closely tied to a specific mission. Yet, the budget request would transfer significant funding from exploration technology development, which is mission-specific, critical, and defined, to the general space technology line that has much less discipline. Taken together, the commercial crew funding and space technology proposals in this budget request bear an unmistakable resemblance to last year's budget request. The outline the President put forward was rejected, but now it seems to be coming back in another form. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to see another year pass where we don't have the focus that Congress passed and the President signed. So I do hope that you can help us see that perhaps we're mistaken, that perhaps you are not going back to focusing just on the commercial side and leaving our basic NASA missions without the priority that Congress has put on the agency. We're here to make sure that NASA is strong and that America's place in the world in space exploration is preeminent. That is our goal. I think it's our common goal, but I don't think that we are in sync on how we get there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, you're exactly right. That January report was entirely inadequate. The senator from Arkansas is the new ranking member on the Science and Space Subcommittee. I want to welcome you. Did you want to have any opening comments?
Yes, sir, if it's appropriate.
Okay.